And welcome into Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I am Brandon, that is Michael, and this is our final Power Rankings episode of the 2023 season, as it's playoff time now. Mikey?
It's exciting time. It's sad time, especially for us, but it's very playoff baseball. Yes, baby, give it to me.
Yeah, playoff baseball is here. We've got the field set and our final 12 teams of the regular season moving on, 12 out of the 30. And we'll give you a little different of a look on this Power Rankings episode because we're going to power rank all 12 teams rather than just the top 10. So if you haven't already subscribed, we'd love to ask you to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. Tell us who you think's going to win the World Series. Is it the Braves? Is it a different team? Do you have a sleeper pick? We'll talk about that and give you our power rankings here. This is brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Go to 10thwhiskey.com for 10% off your order. Use promo code BNB. So 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, they don't just have whiskey. They also have brandy. They've also got clothing. Whether it's a flannel you're looking for, very comfy flannel, or t-shirts, they've got barware, glassware, whatever it is you're looking for. Mikey, what are you using it for?
For my Christmas shopping, of course.
That's right. Christmas shopping. Christmas shopping season. We're in October, just a few months away. Get ahead of the trend and go to head over to 10thmountainwhiskey.com. So that is 10thwhiskey.com. Use promo code all capital BNB for 10% off your order. As we opened up, I mentioned it's the playoff episode, the final 12 teams of the season. We're going to rank our final power rankings 12 through 1 this week, and I'm going to start with number 12, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the team with the worst record in the playoffs. They are the 6th seed in the National League. This team actually backed into the playoffs in the second half. They had one of the worst records of all teams in the playoffs, 32-39, a minus 15 run differential. They had the 11th worst amount of runs scored in the month of September. And if it wasn't for the Cubs losing one or two games in the last couple of weeks, they would have been out. And the Diamondbacks snuck in. They're going to be playing the Milwaukee Brewers as the 6th seed coming up. They are my 12th team in this year's power rankings of the playoffs. Who do you have?
Number 12, I have the Miami Marlins, and this is a little bit due to their health of their team going into the playoffs. They don't have Sandy Alcantara. They don't have Yuri Perez. They may not be the bottom seed going into this. I think they're one of the worst teams of it. They don't have a huge offense with Jorge Soler out as well. But they're Jesus Luzardo. If they did not blow Jesus Luzardo's saves on the year, he'd have a Cy Young-like record of 15-7, I believe. So if only they converted all those saves. Miami at 12.
Your 12 is Miami. My 11 is Miami. The Marlins actually had the second best record in the month of September. So they kind of came up and snatched that spot back. But that's after having one of the worst records in the second half. Actually, the 22nd best record. So that would make it the 9th worst record in all of baseball in the second half. But they played the best when it was the time to play their best. And that was in the month of September. They have the worst run differential in the entire league for those in the playoffs at minus 56. In September, their ERA, their bullpen, was the 7th worst in baseball out of all 30 teams. But they got the job done this week, snuck into the playoffs, 84-77. You may be like, that's not 162. That's because they have the lead in the top of the 9th in what would be game 159 for them, but that got postponed in New York on Thursday night. They're not going to play it because it's not going to affect the seeding, but they probably would have won that game. So we'll call them 85-77, the second worst record in the baseball in the playoffs. So that's my 11 team. Who is yours?
11 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They limped their way, like you said, in the playoffs. Before the second half of September, the first half of September, they were looking like the bats were getting going. Alec Thomas was looking like Corbin Carroll. Tommy Pham was looking like Corbin Carroll. They had some bats rolling. Lourdes Gurriel in left field was playing great. They do have a two-headed monster in Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, of all names. But that's about all they got depth-wise at starting pitcher. But Arizona in the first half was looking like they were going to compete for the title, but baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. And, of course, the Dodgers came out on top in the NL West.
Yeah, the Arizona Diamondbacks had a good start to the season, kind of limped towards the second half of the year, and that's kind of how I'll say my 10th team did as well. They are down 3 spots from last week, sitting in the 7th spot. The Toronto Blue Jays are my 10 team. They have the second worst record in the American League when it comes to records this year. But when the time mattered the most this week, they almost blew it. They lost 2 of 3 to the Yankees, 2 of 3 to Tampa. The run differential is the worst in the American League for those of them in the playoffs, albeit they did have a decent month of September. They have had a decent month pitching-wise, 10th best ERA in baseball in the month of September. They're such a Jekyll and Hyde team to me. They're either playing really well and sweeping teams, or it just seems like they start to lose games that they shouldn't. And just when you think that they're reaching their stride, they fall back a bit. And it's the inconsistency for me that has them at number 10.
Right, I'm right there with you for all the same reasons. I don't have much more to add to that. Their pitching was decent here in the month of September, and that's what you want is to have your pitching rolling because pitching, as we all say, wins the playoffs.
Yeah, pitching and defense, right? Is what they say wins you games and wins you those playoff games. And my 9th team is a team that had the 5th worst ERA in the month of September. They had the 4th worst bullpen ERA in the month of September, and that is number 9, the Texas Rangers, down a spot. Ultimately, they finished as the worst seed in the American League. Second to worst seed, the 5th seed, excuse me. Toronto was the worst seed. But the 5 seed in the American League, the Texas Rangers, they had a week where they went 2-1 versus LA, the Angels, and then they almost got swept in Seattle this week in a 4-game series that they really needed to win. They lost the division in the last day of the season. Still score a lot of runs. Still a great offense. You just said it. Pitching wins championships, and I don't think that their pitching is that great. You've got Evaldi back. You've got the potential for maybe Scherzer trying to come back, but now that they don't have the bye, that's going to be a lot harder. You're going to have to win this series versus Tampa Bay, and I just don't think that that's going to happen just the way that, again, they've been a Jekyll and Hyde team over the last few weeks, 15-14 in September when they needed to be at their best.
Right. I have Texas in the same spot. Their offense, I think, could power them through, but their pitching is lacking. Jordan Montgomery can't do it all. Nate Eovaldi, do we really think he's 100%? And like you said, Max Scherzer probably isn't healthy enough to start a game. He had a right forearm strain, did he not?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's nothing you can just rush through back and throw 97 miles an hour. You can't do it.
Right. You risk losing him for potentially all of next year, which is the final year you have him on the contract. And that's part of the reason why you made the trade for him at the deadline, was not just for this year, but also for that potential at next year in what could be his final season. My number 8 team is a team that I think is a sneaky team in the first round of these playoffs. I think a lot of people are writing them off. The Minnesota Twins, 87-75. A lot of people making fun of that division. But did you know that they had the second best record in all of baseball in the month of September? But on top of that, they scored more runs than any other team in baseball in September. The Minnesota Twins scored more runs than every other team, 173. That beats the Braves, who were in second, by 13 runs. And you don't even want to know who was third best in the league in September in scoring, because it's just going to make you depressed. But the Minnesota Twins, 7-3 in their last 10, 4-2. They did beat up on bad teams this week, but that's what you got to do. One of the better ERAs, I think, all in all. They have maybe the best pitching staff, if you looked at it as a whole, for a starting staff heading into the playoffs, because they've got 3 or 4 guys who could pitch a big game. Sonny Gray. You got Pablo Lopez. I know Ober's probably not the best, and Joe Ryan hasn't been as great as of late, but Joe Ryan down the road could potentially be an ace arm, and that's your number 3 right now heading into the playoffs. All you need to win is 2 out of 3. I'm going to say I think the Minnesota Twins are going to be a sneaky team as they host the Toronto Blue Jays, so they are my number 8 team. Who do you have at 8?
Yeah, number 8, the Minnesota Twins. Did you know they had the second best? The Twins had the best record in the AL in September and scored 20% more runs. Yeah, we have the exact same notes for the Twins here. The Twins today on the last day of the season had their 5th loss, they lost today to the Colorado Rockies, which was just their fifth loss in the last 16 games to finish out the regular season. So, like you said, the
Yeah.
Twins have snuck in. Um, Second best record since the All Star break. I think they just weren't talked about because it was in the AL Central. Could they be this year's Phillies, where they just quietly come in and sneak their way to the ALCS and beat up on the Astros for us? We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. But that is a sneaky team, and those Astros are my number 7 team. Last week we titled it Houston, we have a problem, as they got swept by the Royals, but they went out and they took the division this week, going 5-1, beating Seattle 2 of 3 on the road, which was a huge series, and then they go on the road and sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-0. They've got a bye in the first round, but here's the thing. This year they were under 500 at home. So whoever they face in the second round of the playoffs, which would be the divisional round, may have the upper hand, as Houston hasn't been a great home team this year, but they had the fourth best bullpen ERA in the month of September. But in September, they were 13-14. So if you take the last week away, they were 8-13 through the first 3 weeks of September. Not the best team, but they played their best this week against two good teams that were vying for playoff spots. So the Houston Astros, my number 7 team. Who do you got at 7?
Number 7, I got the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies, I think it was a good thing they didn't have. I think they had a much easier schedule these last 2 weeks. I think the same could be, it could be different. What am I trying to say here? It's a Cubs moment. If the Cubs had a schedule like what their opponents did, it would be a different story here for them. But the Phillies playing the Mets, the Pirates, and the Mets, and actually getting beat up by the Mets this weekend a little bit. They face Miami in the first round. I think they're going to beat up on Miami, but I got Philadelphia at number 7.
And that is our 12 through 7 so far in our top 12 power rankings. A little shake-up this week as we're just doing the playoff teams. If this is your first time joining the podcast as we're jumping into the top 6, ask you to hit the subscribe button as well as that like button below. Tell us who you think is going to be in the first round beating each team, or tell us who's your favorite team out of these 12 that we go into. Maybe your team didn't make the playoffs. Are you a Mariners fan, a Cubs fan? Maybe you're a Reds fan. You got to pick a team, right? Heading into the playoffs. Who are you picking? Who are you rooting for? Put that in the comment section. We'd love to hear that. Now, number 6 for me is a team that I really don't like right now, the Milwaukee Brewers, 92-70. One of the better records in the National League, the third best record. That gives them the third seed. They will host the Arizona Diamondbacks. They've played much better as of late. The fifth best record in the month of September. Third best bullpen ERA in September, but they have the best ERA overall as a staff in the month of September. 2.77. If it wasn't for the Twins, I'd say that probably 1 through 3. I'd probably say the Brewers have the best 1 through 3. I think the Twins have the best 1 through 4 potentially for a starting staff, but the Brewers are only going to need three-headed monster, and they got it all lined up after this weekend, not having to really worry about the Cubs. So the Milwaukee Brewers, my number 6 team, they've got the potential. They've got possibly one of the best managers in baseball left out there coaching their team with Craig Counsell. And that team rallies around Craig Counsell, and it's his final year under contract. So I think the Milwaukee Brewers can use the experience from the past couple of years and get that win over the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then they'll face the LA Dodgers in the second round, and we'll go from there. But who's your number 6 team?
Number 6, I have the Houston Astros. All I can say about the Houston Astros is I have weapons on both sides of it, and it came down to when it mattered. They came out and won 2-1 against the Diamondbacks, 1-0, and I didn't see today's score. They put it.
They
to
blew
them.
them out. I think it was 8-0.
It
was 8-1, I believe.
8-1. So I think the Astros, they're an experienced team. Their whole team has been there, done that, and as you saw this weekend, when it mattered, they put it to it and snuck in and won that division. I don't think anyone kind of saw that coming.
Kind of pulled the rope or pulled the carpet out from underneath everybody, right?
Right.
Like, wait, the Astros all of a sudden won that division?
Right.
Where if they would have lost one game the other day to Seattle, they'd be out of the playoffs today, I believe. So that's just how close that AL West was. The Seattle Mariners at 88-74 on the outside looking in, and they had probably what I thought was the best pitching staff in baseball this year. And number 5 for me is the Philadelphia Phillies. That Phillies team, we saw it last year, turned it on at the right time. You mentioned that they did kind of have a weak schedule here over the last week. I'll kind of chime back at you. The Cubs had a weak schedule as well, facing Colorado twice, Pittsburgh, and then not getting the job done against them.
The final week, though.
The final 2 series was not quite as easy, but Phillies basically clinched last week as it was. So getting beat up by the Mets doesn't really concern me this week because all they're having to do is set their rotation going into this series versus Miami. I believe that they had a winning record versus Miami this year. They're at home, 7-3 in their last 10, despite going 3-3 in their last week of play, 90-72 on the season. A good team, experience like we saw last year. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner. Who are you getting out in that lineup with JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott having a great year, Alex Bohm? That lineup, top to bottom, is a tough one. And then that rotation, if Nola can get back to playoff Nola from last year, that's a team to watch. So the Philadelphia Phillies are my number 5 team.
Number 5, I've got the Milwaukee Brewers. I kept talking about the pitching staff, 1 through 3, Peralta, Burns, Woodruff. But now I think the Brewers have the best move at the trade deadline. That's Mark Canha.
Canha.
For the month of September, the dude hit 300, 388, 456. Was just clutch for them. I think that was sneakily the best move that anybody made hitter-wise. But
even Carlos Santana had been great for them, and that was a move that they made at the deadline as well.
Coming over from Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, interdivision trade, yeah.
Right, he hit 5 home runs in the month of September, 268, 495 slugging. The offense is coming around. William Contreras had a great month of September, 327, 409, 464. They're not even counting on Christian Yelich. And if he can just come into the playoff atmosphere like... You never know what can happen in October baseball. The Brewers will be a force.
Yeah, William Contreras, I believe, ended the season on a 17-game hitting streak. I don't think he played on Sunday. That lineup also, we saw it as Cub fans this weekend. They can do some damage. My number 4 team is a team that we've been kind of crapping on for the last couple of weeks, and they continue to defy everything we've said, almost winning 100 games, and that is the Tampa Bay Rays, 17-11 in September, 195 run differential, one of the best in baseball, the best in the American League, 860 runs scored, the second most in the American League. Overall, a great second half despite all the injuries, despite the Wander Franco distraction. 41-28, 13 games above 500. I don't have much to say other than this was the best team for the first 2 months of the year. They kind of scuffled in the middle of the year, let the Orioles kind of surpass them. But overall, every time we try to doubt them, they show us that they can play. And this team has shown that they know how to win in the playoffs at times too. So Tampa Bay is my number 4 team.
Yeah, I've got Tampa Bay at 4 as well. Really don't have much more to add to that. It will be a good series to see, and just looking forward to it.
Yeah, they host the Texas Rangers in Tampa, and all of these games will be on Tuesday throughout the day, and that cap of the night will be Philly and Miami later on Tuesday night. As we move on to the top 3, ask you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Welcome into Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, our Power Rankings episode, brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Tell us who your favorite team is in the comments below if you haven't done that already. Number 3
Cubs.
for me, the Cubs, is that what you said?
Yeah.
In the number 3 most disappointing team this year. The LA Dodgers, number 3 for me. I'm assuming that's yours as well? No, he had the Dodgers jump up a spot this week. LA Dodgers, 162, 207 run differential, 906, second most runs in baseball. The best record in the second half, 49-24, 17-12 in the month of September. This team continues to do it. I'm a little nervous about their starting pitching staff in the playoffs, but they've got a great bullpen. They scored the 4th most runs in the month of September, 147. They had the best bullpen ERA in September. Overall, a very good team. They prove it year in and year out that they belong in the playoffs. They've got the bye, 162, another season with 100 wins. My 3rd team is the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, I swapped it up a little bit. I have Baltimore at number three, and
Is this just to be controversial?
that was not a knock necessarily on Baltimore. I just believe in LA's offense more. And that run differential to finish the year was almost 100 different. Jada Martinez is hot. He hit 8 home runs in the month of September. James Outman's back with his power, 443 slugging in the month of September. And then you got the two-headed monster of frickin' Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. I mean, two MVP candidates on one team. It's tough to knock that offense a little bit for me. And
Yeah.
both Baltimore and LA's starting pitching is both questionable, even though Baltimore Baltimore edged them out for the month of September in ERA with the third best overall ERA, and LA did finish with the sixth overall ERA in month of September. But I gave the edge to LA.
Yeah, I have Baltimore at number 2. As you mentioned, the third best ERA in the month of September, 3.34. LA's was 3.63. But everybody's been crapping on Baltimore's starting pitching, and that's kind of been the question we've had in podcasts
Yeah,
over the last couple of weeks. They had the second best ERA amongst starters in the month of September in all of baseball. So their starting pitching staff has kind of shoved it and said, hey, come and get us. They're the only team in the American League to win 100-plus games, 101 and 61, in the best division in baseball. The only division that had 3 teams in the American League make it, and all 3 of those teams won 89 or more, and the Toronto Blue Jays could have very well won more than that if they hadn't kind of caved in the last couple of days. But the Baltimore Orioles, they didn't just win that division. They beat the Tampa Bay Rays, who had, what was it, like a 10-game lead in the month of May, it seemed.
Marathon, not a sprint, baby.
The Dodgers had the best record in the second half, 49 and 24, but Baltimore was right behind them at 47 and 26. They had a better record in the month of September, 18 and 11, which was the 5th best. And this was all while fighting for the best record in the American League and winning their division at the same time. So the Baltimore Orioles are my number 2 team. You already mentioned your number 2, and we can both just say who our number 1 is.
The Atlanta Braves.
The Atlanta Braves. I am kind of disappointed in them down the stretch. Multiple reasons. I'd like to rank them number 10 just for what they did on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm just kidding. Holding the grudge. But they did not break the record for home runs. Even though it looked like they were going to do it. Yeah, 1 shy. So they didn't get there. They were close, but they didn't get there. Fell 1 shy of the 2019 Twins for the most home runs in a single season. But
sure, they had the video montage ready, though. Sure, it was ready.
I guarantee you it was ready. They were going to do it. It was well said, and well played. So that is our top 12 power rankings this week, brought to you by 12th Mountain, just kidding, 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, who has been powering our top 10 power rankings since the middle of July. Big thank you to our sponsors, 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Head on over to their website, 10thwhiskey.com. Get promo code BNB. That'll get you 10% off your order. I've been giving it to you the last couple of weeks. I've given you number 30 through 10. Well, I guess through 11 at this point. Now I'm going to be giving you my top 30 yet again as, well, my computer decided it didn't want to work right now. So as I'm loading that up, I tell you what, Oakland finished with the worst record in baseball. They are my worst team in the majors this year. Number 30, we're going to call this the honorable mentions. Number 30 was Oakland. Number 29 is not the team you think it is. It is not Kansas City. I'm going with the Colorado Rockies. Kansas City comes in as the 3rd worst. This Chicago White Sox, one of the most disappointing seasons that I think anybody can remember. A team that potentially could have won the division. They finished with the 4th worst record in baseball. And then in 26th, the Washington Nationals, 25th. St. Louis Cardinals, 24th, excuse me. My computer's all jacked up. The Los Angeles Angels, New York Mets in 23, 22. The Cleveland Guardians, who really folded down the stretch. The Boston Red Sox, 21. That's a team that just kind of crapped their pants in the month of September. Right. The Pittsburgh Pirates, number 20. The San Francisco Giants, another team that really fell down a spot this week. They finished under 500. Fired their manager, 19th best. But the team that jumped up the most in my power rankings, the Detroit Tigers. Miggy's final weekend. What a week it was. 5-1 in their last week, 7-3 in their last 10 games, up 3 spots. That's a team to watch for next year in the American League Central if they can just make a couple additions here and there. New York Yankees, number 17, another season, 31 in a row, finishing above 500. Cincinnati Reds, 16. The Chicago Cubs in 15th. Number 14, the San Diego Padres. Can you believe it? They finished above 500, 82-80, just a game and a half, 2 games out of the playoffs. That's how close it was. They had an amazing month of September, the best month of September, just a little too late. San Diego in 14, 13, Seattle, 12. We already went over the Arizona Diamondbacks, and not everything's just started to go into crap on me. My light just went out, just like the season, lights on the season. Yeah. Yes, so thanks for sticking with us here so far in 2023. It was a great season for a lot of teams, not for our Cubbies who folded down the stretch, but it's been fun. We hope you've enjoyed everything we brought you on these power rankings. Look out for more content as we go throughout the next couple of weeks of the playoffs. We'll talk baseball, we'll talk bourbon as well on our bourbon channel, B&B Bourbon. Michael, what were your thoughts of the 2023 season?
Some surprises. The trade deadline got real exciting. It's going to be an exciting offseason for sure.
Yeah, offseason is going to be an exciting one with the biggest free agent we've ever seen in Shohei Ohtani. And we'll get to that later on in episodes down the road. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Find us. This is a YouTube exclusive video, but we have our podcast on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Google, and Amazon podcasts. Go head on over there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button here. And if you're a fan of bourbon, check out 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Also, our bourbon YouTube channel. That is at BNB Bourbon. I am Brandon. That is Michael. You can find Michael on Twitter and Instagram at BNB_Burns. You find me at whiskey_weather. Our final power rankings, week 27. Michael, send us home.
Let's go.